Hi, hi, it's Mike Stephenson here. In this video, I'm going to take a look at the new cost assessment survey we've put into the Turbo 360 website. So to find this, we're up here and we're going to take this assessment. And this is the first time I've filled it in. So I'd like to talk about the questions that we're going to ask and why I think they're important. So if we go down the list here, so first off, we've got this question here about how frequently does your organization review cloud costs? Now, I think this is quite important. And what I tend to find from speaking to customers is that many customers do this annually or 6 monthly. They go through this cycle of we get a big bill, we export the data because we're complaining about the bill, and the senior management team feels like cost management's not under control. The big bill just keeps getting bigger, and they want to do something about costs. Now, that's where a lot of the customers who come to us have really been. They've been in this bit where cost management's a very reactive issue. With Turbo 360, the idea is we want to make it easy for you to do a cost review, as well as many of the other typical FinOps type activities, very easily, and you can just do them when you want. We don't want this big exercise of downloading, processing data before anybody can look at it and already be out of date. So really what we're looking for is to get customers up this list, so it's something you can do very frequently. I think some of our partners, what's really interesting is particularly the solution delivery partners, they've tried to include cost reviews as part of the sprint retrospective. So we're seeing that in a number of partners where they think rather than wait until after go live before we start thinking about cost, we can think about it early in the development life cycle because we can make changes then and optimize stuff. And I think that's a really great way to guarantee being far more successful later on. Now, the next question is, who is primarily responsible for monitoring in your organization? So we'd see a real mix of customers here. So I would say the most common two we see are nobody's really responsible for it, or while we might think we have somebody responsible for it in practice, the activity of managing cost falls between different people's jobs, so it's not really anybody's proper focus, which is really where a lot of the challenges customers have comes from. So you either have to have people collaborate very effectively, or you have to have somebody who takes ownership of it to really be on top of it. Now, I think in my experience, what we tend to find is we have a few people who come to us who've got dedicated FinOps teams. The most common one we see is the IT department is responsible for monitoring cost, and I think the finance department tends to be the end customer of the IT department. Now, this may be a common thing where we speak to a lot of customers who have cost problems, and maybe they're early. I think in my head I'm thinking a lot about the FinOps maturity model here. So we speak to a lot of customers who haven't even started crawling yet, or who are crawling and they want to get better. And I think those customers who are further down the FinOps maturity model, they would tend to be more towards that, having a dedicated FinOps team and the finance department being more in control. But I think a lot of customers we come across are really kind of, how do I start tackling this problem I've got? Now, the next question we have is, how do you track your Azure spend? Now, there's different ways you can do this, and I guess we see a mix of all of this when we speak to different customers. Most customers who come to speak to us at Turbo 360 either come to us with no formal tracking in place and they want to start tackling the problem, or they come to us having used the Azure cost management tools, find that they get so far, and then they need holistic views, they need to be more proactive, and they're not really achieving the value they need, so they start looking for a third-party tool. And then I think we do see some customers who have custom scripts, but I think a lot of the time people don't really want to be doing cost management unless you're a FinOps expert. A lot of people, it kind of gets put on them as part of their job, but what they really want to do is build new applications. And I think that actually fits really well with us at Turbo 360, where you're people in your organization, you want them delivering value for the business, and you want to make managing costs something that you just do, but it doesn't take a load of time to be successful at it. So I'm gonna fill the survey, and I'm gonna say, I know in my team internally, so we have a formal review once a month, but then actually we kind of a bit more proactively. Well, we use a tool, so we monitor costs daily, really, and all the time, because we have things like anomaly detection in place. But I guess I probably look at our costs in Table 360 multiple times a week, so I'll say weekly. Um, in our organisation, the IT department looks at it. I guess we sort of have a dedicated FinOps team, but we're more of a product team um, than an enterprise customer, and we have a third-party tool, which is our own tool. So next up, we've got, does your organisation use reserved instances or saving plans? So this is a great way to start saving money without having to significantly change anything about your environment. So if you're not aware of these things, go and check them out. That's a quick win to be able to get some cost savings. Question 5 is, do you optimize your resources for cost efficiency? So this is really, the customers we speak to, there's really a range of things we come across here. Most of the time, it's never or rarely. Some customers periodically do it, but often, actually, what I tend to find is a lot of the times it's some person who's a little bit of a champion that the company don't really maybe even are aware that they're doing it. But sometimes you get a team or a person who's very proactively sort of trying to look for cost savings. Those are the kind of people you want to empower to be doing more of what they're doing, because they're saving you money. I think certainly the people we speak to, they're coming to us because they've got a gap or a problem, so they're probably not continuously doing it. But really, that's where, as a product, Table 360 can help you, because we're making recommendations of things you can do on a daily basis, which is good. So that idea of going from a bad place to a good place quickly, we would like to help you there. What is the primary method your organization uses to optimize costs? So again, a lot of companies do shutdown of unused resources. So this one here. I think that comes probably because a lot of the time cost management is either driven by, once we have a problem and we want to do something about it, it's often either the infrastructure team drive it, and the easy cost savings to shut down VMs. Right sizing, I think's one that I find a lot of customers just haven't really thought about. The number of times we speak to people where they've deployed a resource, they go on to the next project, and nobody's ever looked back and realised that that resource was twice as big as it needed to be, and you've spent 6 months paying twice the money you should have paid. They're really where some of the effective cost savings can come from. Utilising cost savings offers. So there's some really interesting stuff that actually can be reserved instances or savings plans. But also, I think one of the things I've learned a lot over the last years, leveraging the benefits that you could have. So let's imagine if you're a Microsoft partner, you might be able to get credits through your partner center account. You might be able to get some kind of sponsorship. You might have, for non-production, for development stuff, you might be able to leverage MSDN type credits. There's lots of things that are available, and people aren't often aware of what they are. So make sure you're checking out things where you can get free credits or big discounts. So let's fill this in for our company. So yes, we use these extensively. How often do you optimize? So we're doing that continually because we've got a tool doing it. And I guess the primary method is, I guess in our case, a combination of the top 3. Okay, so next up we've got tagging. Tagging and cost allocation. So how do we tag and allocate these to different projects? So here, again, customers we speak to, they range significantly. Some customers have a very established great tagging practice. Often if they've been getting into landing zones and good governance models, they're doing that, and that can lead on to good showback, chargeback. we speak to a lot of customers who aren't really doing anything, and actually a lot of the customers who are doing good stuff, they often carry some legacy technical debt where they were never really doing it right in the first place. And obviously, you know, on a cloud journey that spans years, things change over a period of time. So I think everybody wants to get to probably the top one on the list, but most people are somewhere in the middle, I think. Do you have a defined FinOps strategy in place? So I think a lot of customers we speak to don't really know. Actually, some of them don't know what FinOps is, which I think I've found quite interesting. I guess as a FinOps vendor, we often get in that mindset and assume everybody knows, but actually, a lot of people have the they're aware of the concepts of FinOps without necessarily knowing it's a formal kind of activity and all the background behind it. So what we what we're hoping in Turbo 360 is we want to help customers go from that starting point, on the maturity model where we haven't even started crawling yet, or we're just starting to crawl. We want to help you progress, and the tooling can help you get some activities and practices, culture and ways of working into place. And then what we hope that a customer would find is actually starting to do many of the activities that make up FinOps without necessarily realizing that you're doing them. And then I think the questions maybe, do you want to have a FinOps strategy before you start, or do you want to have some success and then kind of iteratively evolve a FinOps strategy? And I think, to be honest, I think for a lot of customers, the second one's probably the way they would prefer, because you don't want to come up with an entire strategy and then try and implement it. You probably want to take the things that don't work, stop doing them, and the things that do work for your organization, be successful with them and then iterate and get better. And I think that's the best way to get your maturity better. Does your organization handle cloud cost anomalies? Yeah, so most companies, unless you've got a tool really doing this for you, you're probably not really in a great place and you're getting away with this. So this is really where you need good anomaly detection, you need good budget monitoring, and you need to be quite well on top of these things. This is where most of the third-party ecosystem come into play to really help you out here. How well do you feel your organization understands Azure billing? I would be surprised if anybody said extensively. I might put an alert on this survey behind the scenes to see if anybody says extensively. The reality is it changes all the time. The reality is Azure is so big that, I've been a Microsoft MVP for 15 odd years. There's bits of Azure I've never used. There's things getting added all the time. So I think if you're moderate to competently, then you're doing quite well. But it would be really interesting to see if anybody says they're extensively know the billing here. So let's think how we would fill this in for me. So we're doing tagging really well. I would argue we have a partially implemented FinOps strategy. I think there's certain bits of it. As a company, I guess a big enterprise company might have a much more fully formed strategy. We're a small ISV, so we have a strategy that we implement. But as we're building a tool to help implement a strategy, so the more we add new features to the tool, the more we'll evolve our strategy in an iterative approach. And I think that kind of idea works well for many companies. Does your organization handle cost anomalies? So I would say we're pretty immediate on that. And I would say competent. Okay, so at this point, I would fill in my details. So after I've submitted my survey there, in my case, I got quite a good efficiency rating, so that's really nice. I'm obviously doing quite well. But the bit you might find useful is there's a little report you can download, and I'm just going to shut that and open it from here in the browser. So here's a little PDF just telling you a bit about the answers that you provided, and you'll find that there's some useful links in various parts of this article, just giving you some pointers to some of the content that we have that might give you a little bit of thinking about how we would do things. And what we're really looking for, hopefully this has some value for you, but if you'd like to come and chat about some of how we may be able to help you progress your FinOps journey, tackle some of these cost management challenges you may have, make it easy for your team to just get better, saving you money, feeling like you get away from that feeling of the bill just keeps getting bigger, to feeling like we have transparency and we feel like we're in control of our spend. That's where we want to help you get to. Thank you for listening to today's video.